Canada. There's so much.
Canada.
There's so much going on in Canada right now.
My home and native land. And by that I mean my family's home and native land.
Mm-hmm. Well, don't you have a Canadian citizenship?
Yes, I am a Canadian citizen.
What part of Canada?
My family's from Newfoundland originally, so that's sort of above
St.
me.
John's.
Mm-hmm. And
Have you ever seen the show Republic of Doyle?
no, I've never seen it.
It's based on St. John's, Newfoundland.
Yeah,
because all the actors are from that, or all the main characters, I believe, are from that area. And Alan Hocko, who's the lead character, who's the head actor and the main producer on the show, stars on the show. It's
been recommended to me before. I should really watch it.
It's amazing. It's one of my favorite. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a very buffoonish private detective who also happens to be very handsome and very charming.
The movies are good-looking people. I don't know what to tell you.
You have to go watch the show.
Okay.
First of all, if for no other reason than a lot of the establishing shots make you want to go visit.
Yeah, it's a really
beautiful.
beautiful part of the world.
Yeah.
And then my mom's surviving sibling lives on Vancouver Island, so that's Pacific Northwest, which is also gorgeous. So I've been very lucky.
I want to go there.
Yeah, they're both places great.
So speaking of Canada,
yeah.
It says Canada pulls Roland Emmerich's Moonfall from theaters. This kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, when you told me that we were going to do this story, I was surprised because last time I was on, you were having a debate over what would have more success this weekend at the box office, Moonfall or the Jackass movie.
And I have since conceded that I think Miracle is right. Jackass is going to, not just because, it's going to be more successful financially because it costs like nothing.
I think Miracle
to make.
wants you to acknowledge that
Give
more
me the money
formally,
now.
a nice handshake here,
I will give you the money. In fact, I'll give it to you for my...
No,
Venmo her right now.
My $1 that I won back there.
No, you keep that because you won that fair and square. Okay. I want a fresh, crisp bill.
I will get you if it wins this weekend. Yeah. I will give her we'll do it on air. I will give her $1 on camera.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to go to an ATM at some point.
To withdraw $1.
So it says this is just kind of fascinating because it says they pulled the movie. It says Roland Emmerich's films are known for being high budget. Science disaster blockbusters, and the upcoming Moonfall is no different. While the film is set to release on February 4th, it looks like those in Canada will be missing out on all the action as plans for a theatrical release in the country have been scrapped. At first I was like, did they have something to hide? Did they fake the moon landing? Maybe it was them. It says, reaching out to Mongrel, Lionsgate, and Cineplex, Screen Rant received words from Cineplex confirming news of cancellation. Okay, you're a writer. Before we this is a weird. How do you spell cancellation or canceled? Is it 2 L's or 1?
It's 2 L's.
See, I see 2 L's in almost everything, and some people put 1 L. Well, and I'm wondering if the person who puts 1 L knows something that the other people don't.
I don't know. I can't. Now that you've asked me, I can't think of it. But also, some grammatical stuff is regional. Like if this is a Canadian publication, they might spell that word differently than an American publication would.
Well, it's the same thing when you spell cancel or canceling. So, like if you type it into your computer, it'll switch it sometimes.
Okay.
So we're all breaking out our phones.
Yeah. So you'll see it because every time when I answer an email where it says like we
canceled is 1 L though.
Yeah, but sometimes it allows you to type it with 2.
No, it should be 1 L for cancellation. I think cancellation.
It says canceled with 1 L and canceled with 2 L's in my.
Both spellings are correct.
Okay.
Americans, it's like the word gray. So Americans favor canceled 1 L, while canceled 2 L's is preferred in British English, and Canada often uses vernacular that's more common to British English.
Okay, so 2 L's. That was a fantastic aside. I'm glad we were able to figure out this debate on
But
air.
if you see the word gray, like both Grey and Gray are correct, but A is for America and E is for England.
So they're both okay.
I thought one was color and one was like mood.
I don't know. I've always heard it like specifically to the nations. But okay, so why did they give a comment why they're pulling this movie?
It says the statement. This came after a statement released from films distributor Mongrel Media, which released last Friday. The statement read, "For planning reasons, decisions had to be made while cinemas in Canada were closed. Amid the Omicron outbreak in Canada, here we are. We're once again blaming COVID for everything that's ever been wrong with the world. Restrictions tightened and movie theaters in Canada were eventually closed. Ontario just recently opened its theater doors on January 31st, while Quebec is set to reopen on February 7th. This has led to confusion as to why the film will not receive a theatrical release. Why don't they just wait until the 7th to release it? there.
It will not at all ever.
Well, that's what.
Well, I assume they want all. It has to open nationwide at the same time to really evaluate like.
The Western.
And it's more. They're picking provinces that have the most populous cities.
Yes.
So it's not like Alberta, which, as my sweet Canadian aunt said to me, is the Texas of Canada. They're saying basically like. That was not enough to throw off the first weekend at the box office ratings.
So this other article says, "Inside the Mystery of the Missing Moonfall, the biggest movie to ever bypass Canadian audiences." That's a fantastic headline. It really is. Like, caught me right away. It says, "This weekend, the new end-of-the-world movie Moonfall is set to dominate the box office." Again, I don't think that is true. I think I'm going to eat crow here and say that Miracle's right. That I think people still love to watch people get hurt.
But what? So what does this say?
It says,
the reason?
Directed by Roland Emmerich, the disaster porn artist behind Independence Day 2012 and The Day After Tomorrow, Moonfall looks gloriously trash-tacular. This writer is just going for it. It features a curious collection of stars: Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, Donald Sutherland. That is a very eclectic group of people. A head-shaking plot: a mysterious force has knocked the moon from its orbit and sent it hurtling towards Earth. Yes.
A giant cat.
That's
that would
so
be incredible.
cute.
That would be incredible.
It's just King Bucko.
Yeah.
It says, and a beautifully absurd headline: "In 2022, humanity will face the dark side of the moon." I love it. I hope that he actually developed this movie around, like, he got drunk one night and came up with that tagline and then built the movie around that.
Maybe that would be funny.
For Canadians finally allowed back into
I hope he was listening to that Mulan musical when they
not Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd.
No,
that would be too predictable.
I'll Make a Man Out of You for Mulan.
Oh, that's cute.
Perfect.
What's the line? As furious? Oh no.
I can search up
as something as the Dark Side of the Moon, and then they hold that one.
Or maybe he was watching Transformers Dark of the Moon, and he's like, I'm going to make a better movie.
See, there are so many good cultural references. I would love it for, like, he's home with his kids, they're watching Mulan for the 100th time, and he's got that song stuck in his head.
He's just like, I got an idea for a movie. It says, for Canadians finally allowed back in the theaters after yet another round of shutdowns, our Ontario cinemas reopened this past Monday, while Quebec venues welcome audiences back next Monday. Of course, they would open on a Monday and not a Friday and make it much harder for these people. Moonfall sounds like the perfect no-brain required. Well,
they don't want to open. I mean, I guess businesses work differently. Like movie theaters are open several days a week, but it's like the start of the business week, I guess, on Mondays.
And
like if you had to open on a Friday and you're open Friday and Saturday, but then you had like half hours on Sunday, I don't know.
But it's a movie theater. Friday and Saturday are their big days. They should want to open now.
Maybe they want to like start on a Monday when it's slower so they can get used to whatever the new restrictions are. Anyways, so what's the reason?
It says Moonfall sounds like the perfect no-brain required entertainment for a dead of winter night out, especially given that there isn't much else on offer at multiplexes, with Omicron-wary studios having largely abandoned January. That's not Omicron-wary studios. January is always where movies go to die, historically. The only problem, Moonfall is not opening at any Canadian theater this weekend, nor will it be available on demand. Moonfall is simply bypassing Canadian audiences entirely, and with a $140 million production budget and huge launch on across U.S. screens, it is the biggest release to ever do so. This past Friday, Allied Global Marketing, which has been responsible for Moonfall's Canadian marketing in an arrangement with the film's domestic distributor Mongrel Media, confirmed to the Globe and Mail that both companies were no longer handling the movie's release up until that point. Moonfall had been an active concern. Mongrel posted trailers on its Facebook page as early as September, and the film was listed as opening February 4th on websites at Cineplex, the world's largest movie exhibitor. So that's where most of their movies are played. Posters were up all over, blah, blah, blah. It says, since 2019, it says, so what happened? Blame Ontario and Quebec governments, says Canadian film industry veteran Victor Lowy. Since 2019, Lowy, the former chief executive officer of Alliance Films, has been the leader behind a deal struck between Mongrel, Cineplex, and Lionsgate Entertainment to jointly handle the Canadian theatrical distribution of films either acquired or produced by Lionsgate, including Moonfall. So it's bureaucracy, plain and simple. And that is, like, it just goes to show, like...
But, like, why aren't they pushing it back? Because they just don't know when the pandemic restrictions will end.
Yeah, well, that's I actually have to like call myself on this. Like, we talked about this the other day, where I was like saying my advice is to make smaller budget movies and focus more on streaming. But there's so much that goes into this that it would be impossible for anybody who doesn't work in that field to really understand the hurdles that they have to go for. I don't make that as an excuse as to why movies suck sometimes. I'm still going to call out movies that suck or are full of political agenda, this and that. But it really is just like an almost unwinnable situation when the government is constantly locking them down.
Yeah.
And it's literally a job of forecasting, because it's not like it's just, they don't just have to worry about time of year. They have to worry about what movies are coming out from other companies.
Yeah.
Where in the world it is, because time of year in Canada is not necessarily, doesn't matter as much as time of year in Australia, because the weather's different in different places. Driving conditions vary place to place. There's a million things they have to consider when coming up with release dates for these movies. So it's amazing that any of them get made at all. And with with COVID being this excuse that's literally put up every time, I get annoyed when they say that that's the reason nobody came to see the movie, but it's absolutely a reason as to why these things keep getting moved around, and you're never sure when anything's going to come out.
I guess the question is, like, it's like notable for the times, but does it actually matter? Like, do we look at the Canadian box office revenue as an indication of a film's success? Like, I'm Canadian, I'm not trying to be mean, but like, do we care about cinematic releases? That's sort of the larger conversation here.
It says the only major 2022 release so far theatrically in Canada has been the new Scream film, which Paramount Pictures Canadian arm distributed January 14th. So it's like you can't win in Canada is a big market, because when they do domestic box office, they don't just count America, they count Canadian. They count Canada as well.
When you just say Minnesota, you guys are pretty much like the second.
No, Canada says Minnesota is Lower Canada. Like, that's part of them.
I take offense to that.
I don't know.
That's
they
why
actually
I said
say
it.
that. I'm a coastal Canadian. So.
I'm not Lower Canada. Sorry, I'm not. So I just think it's like, I don't envy having to be the people that have to come up with these types of strategies when the government is coming in and constantly changing everything for them.
Yeah, that's not good.
The Absence of Moonfall, which in a delicious smack of irony was filmed in Montreal, a lot of stuff is filmed in Canada because of the tax cuts and budgeting, is a blow for Canadian audiences looking for big screen escapism, but the movie will also surely wound domestic theater owners.
What?
Wound, not wound.
Like, hurt their profit
Yes,
margins.
I know. Certainly wound them. It will damage them. I can't imagine owning a theater in this day and age. You'd be better off owning a drive-in movie theater at this point.
Drive-in movie theaters had a bunch of restrictions too in early COVID.
That's so stupid.
It's been a journey.
Yep. A lot of people predicted like the death of theaters after when COVID first hit. That was like doomsday prophecies galore, where that movie theaters would never recover. I don't necessarily believe that that's true.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the smaller, like the theater we're going to tonight is a smaller theater. There's only 10 screens, but much nicer. So I can't imagine having to do this as a job, trying to come up with release dates. Is there a similar type of, I guess, comparison in journalism? Like, do you have to play, because it's just put out the story as it comes out, right?
Yeah, I mean, so much of journalism is dependent on the internet right now. So you can publish whenever, wherever, and it's not reliant on close contact, which is what is the problem here. Like, there are restrictions on how many people can be in the theater, masks, things like that. I think it's more comparable to like live events, so like concerts or outdoor venues, or like,
those have been hurt.
Whatever. Those have been hurt really bad. And there
bad.
are people who hesitate to schedule them right now because
why would you?
Yeah, and so like
one of your stars could get COVID and event,
or the more comparable to this.
Yeah.
More comparable to this, the city where you're having the event could change the rules, and you can't, like, if you sell out a 500. What's a typical stadium size? Like, let's say 100,000 people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, well, you can only operate at 75% capacity. If you sold out, that means you have to decide which 25,000 people don't get to go, and how do you decide that? And also, like, do you refund those people because you're having the event, so it's not like you're making a second one? Do you try to have 2 nights? That's more expensive. Then you have to sell, it's really difficult. And so I think in some ways movies are better prepared for this because they can like digitally, when you like buy your ticket and then you mark what seats are available, they can limit the number of tickets available per screening and calculate more effectively what their cost margins are. But on this end, it seems like it's the production company that is like, it's the statistical impact, how this is going to make our movie look is much harder.
The most annoying thing in the world to me still, that they oversell planes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do that.
It's just wrong.
They do that, but then also a hidden little thing is like they leave 2 seats open at least for like 2 flight attendants just in case. Just in case.
When I was a kid, I used to fly to Canada as an unaccompanied minor with my brother, and we were flying out to Vancouver from the east coast of the U.S. And in those days, they used to put the unaccompanied minors on last.
Yeah.
And we were on we were boarding at this major airport, and they put everyone on, and your parent comes through with you. And we're sitting there, and then they realize they have overbooked, and there's a couple passengers who didn't make it, but then also we didn't make it. And I swear, after that was the last year, I don't know if it was because my brother and I doubt it, but like the policy is now that you board unaccompanied minors first.
Because it's, isn't it because like you can basically have a missing child?
Well, I mean, in that case, like they were scheduled to fly us, and like you can't then like, the problem is like, when you overbook a flight, all those people who are left, you rebook their flights onto something else.
Yeah.
But like with
or
children, when the airline is responsible for them, who is it? Does their parents stay at the airport with them? Like it's you have to have a really clear chain of command with children, and so like, if you bump them to a flight the next day, who's picking them up? And then it can like, a lot of unaccompanied minors fly because of like custody issues. Yeah. And so like, it's just like, it's a mess all the way down the line. Yeah. But so they put unaccompanied minors on before that. And then anyone who's overbooked is not a child having to sort it out.
And have you ever done that?
Flown as an unaccompanied minor?
Yeah.
No. I think I only flew on one plane before I was old. Before I started skating and traveling to competitions, I think I'd only been on a plane like once or twice before. But it also could be because of the famous case of, everyone knows of, Kevin McAllister supposedly going with his parents on a trip and accidentally being sent to New York City.
Well, they made a movie of this real life story, and I don't remember the name of the movie, but so a big time for unaccompanied minors to fly is the week between Christmas and New Year's. Yes. And again, it's mostly kids who have parents in. A lot of times, it's family or famously parents.
They allow kids to fly unaccompanied.
Well, I did that in
it's expensive. I mean, like now there's an additional charge and all kinds of things. But in the early 2000s, there was a big snowstorm in Chicago, and there were a bunch of unaccompanied minors, literally hundreds of them, who got stuck at the airport. And they had to, it's a disaster. You have to house them because if you're an adult and your flight gets canceled, the hotel sometimes the airport will sometimes cover your hotel, maybe give you a food waiver. Sometimes you have to spend the night in the airport. Like, it's not fun. But when you're a child, it's much more complicated, much more confusing, and then the airline is liable for your safety.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, like, I've listened to an NPR reporter tell a story about, like, she and her little sister were there having, like, the airline had to take hundreds of these kids to, like, one big room kind of in the back of the airport and figure out what to do with them. But, yeah, I don't think, I know now that, like, I think there's, like, my stepmom has kids, and occasionally she'll send them to see their grandparents out of state. And more than once, she has just like asked her younger brother or my brother or whatever to fly with my sisters because it's cheaper to buy another adult a ticket than to pay the surcharge that you have to pay in addition for your unaccompanied minor.
Oh, I didn't
know
that.
A lot unaccompanied?
When I was younger, I used to do that with like my mom and grandmother because I used to live in California with my grandmother, and then I flew out here to Maryland, and I did that once because
your mom was here.
Yeah, so because during that time my stepdad used to be in the military, so they would station him in different places in the US, and the last place they stayed was Maryland. So I flew by myself. It was fine, but my grandmother was a little bit freaked out. This was when I was in junior high. I think they stopped doing it, but they never asked me if like I needed somebody to watch me because I look like an adult.
When I started flying alone when I was at 15, I think you can fly completely unaccompanied through the airport.
Really? For me, it was like I was 13. They never
asked. It's like 13, 14. It's early high school, maybe late middle school. And I started flying. The first time I flew unaccompanied, I was 4 or 5, I think. But Yeah, that has nothing to do with Canada. No. Well, other than I flew to Canada.
It does say, like, it doesn't say on here if the movie's missing. It looks like it's missing it entirely. Like they're just not releasing it there
so
because it's not going to get.
Will it go to an early release for streaming in Canada?
Nope, it doesn't say that. All it says there's one paragraph here. It says, but the predicament.
What if the movie is actually secretly really anti-Canadian and like after this weekend it'll come out and that's why the Canadian government blocked
please.
That would be amazing. It says, but the predicament cannot exactly be comforting for Canadian moviegoers, especially when compounded by the news that this week that another pending Hollywood release, the Channing Tatum vehicle Dog, is also skipping the country's theaters. It's no longer being released by Canada distributor 11th Pictures. So it sounds like what they're saying is that they're just skipping.
So it's not worth dealing
rather than release it later. They're just going to not release it. I'm assuming that there's some type of logic to that. I can't imagine what it is.
I mean, I think it's just not worth because it costs them to set
keep
up
it in the
release,
theaters,
right? And if it's not going to make money, like
we'll find out
obvious.
later after this movie is released in the U.S. We'll find out later. And also, I wanted to bring it up earlier. You asked what the lyrics was from Mulan. Sorry, that was like stuck in my mind.
Go for it.
It's called "Mysterious as the Dark Side."
Mysterious as the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
I love it. That's what this guy was like inspired by. It's the Mulan. I know.
Yeah.
The secretly anti-Canadian movie what
if it is? What if you hear it here first?
Maybe it might be.
That's my conspiracy theory.
Maybe they just don't like Halle Berry.
No, I think it's like it's just not worth the cost risk.
Yeah.
Like the investment isn't there, but if it does have anti-Canadian messaging, somebody give me $1 because I predicted it.
Brett will give you $1.
What? Why am I being forced? Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.
Bye.